In the legal world, there is a combination of forces that feed a corrupt and suffocating legal system for attorneys. Law schools, law professionals, judges, and even the firms themselves for whom you work create a system, a matrix, if you will, that is nothing like what you thought when you passed the bar exam. The purpose of this podcast is to help you escape this legal matrix, leading you out of the proverbial desert to be free of the bondage of the matrix. Hosted by Bryce D. Nyer, attorney at law with over 30 years experience in the trenches of civil and criminal litigation at the state, federal, and international levels. He's a highly accomplished and resourceful legal professional, a true master of his craft, and he's here to help you get your life back. Here's your host, Bryce D. Nyer.
All right. It's another episode of Escape the Legal Matrix with yours truly, Bryce D. Nyer, coming at you live from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg. Yes, Fort Bragg. Again, back to its original name. We're so happy about that here in my area. So glad that it's back to where it needs to be. So listen, we're going to talk about this subject tonight, wherever we may be, whatever time zone, state, territory, or country, about the issue of discipline. So discipline, well, it takes on many different forms. For example, if you do something wrong, you could be disciplined by your parents, you could be disciplined by your school, disciplined by the authorities, the court system. But what we're going to talk about tonight is a different type of discipline. It's a discipline of you and me, making sure that we take the actions daily that we're supposed to take in order to propel our lives forward in the domains of body, of being, of balance, and yes, of course, business, which ultimately leads to what? Fulfillment. Because fulfillment is what you want to attain. Now, that doesn't mean, you get to do whatever you want whenever you want to do it and have no boundaries set. But what it does mean is that fulfillment is defined very differently for each person. So, here's the reason why I'm talking about this, because let's go to the domain of body, about working out. Now, working out is not always fun. It's not. Sometimes it's painful, it's tiring, you just don't want to do it. But the truth is, if you don't exercise, if you don't eat right and have the proper diet, you're going to get fat. And you're going to get unhealthy, and you're going to get sluggish, you're going to lose clarity, you're going to lose focus. And for my life, most of my life, I've been very active. But recently, within the last, 2 months, the domain of body for me has been off. It's just this discipline that I had has been waning. Now, it's my fault. It's nobody's fault but mine. I'm accountable and responsible for what I do or fail to do. But what I find is when you don't have the discipline, which is definitely different from motivation, then your core 4 areas of body, being, balance, and business, they go off track. You start to drift like a rudderless ship or a compass just going in all these directions with no set direction. And I got to tell you folks something. It's not a very comfortable feeling at all. Not at all. In fact, it makes you kind of sad. It makes you very sad, and you get angry and you get frustrated, and then it begins to spin into this karma cul-de-sac of, being a hamster on a wheel that's running on the wheel, but actually not making any progress, not really going anywhere, except the hamster on the wheel probably gets exercise and loses some weight. But again, you get the gist of my meaning. And I was thinking about that this weekend as I was talking to some of my closest friends that are very near and dear to me, and we were discussing about all of the domains. And I was just thinking about, I was changing, and I'm like, man, I really could look a lot better. I was doing great in fitness, and then I just began to slack off. And it was because I didn't keep the daily discipline that I need to do. Getting up, getting to the gym, being organized in the type of exercises that I need to do, and then eating the proper nutrition, the protein, so on and so forth. And instead, I've just gone way off track. And when I went way off track, I felt bloated. I felt horrible. I felt sluggish. I didn't feel focused. I was like, I just felt blah. And that can happen in every single domain, not just body, but the same thing in being. If for me, of the Christian faith, I struggle with it too. When I do stupid sins and I do stupid stuff, it can really throw you off your game spiritually. It can send you down a path, down a rabbit hole of this guilt and shame because you feel like you fail. When you don't have the discipline in the domains, you feel like a failure, that you're just not good enough in any of them. And in balance, balance is that's an easy one to not be disciplined in. If you're married or you're dating and you don't put into it passion, empathy, understanding, communication, the things that make a relationship thrive, then essentially you become undisciplined in doing the daily things that you need to do to keep that relationship flourishing. In business, if you don't have the discipline to show up, to meet with the clients, to close the deals, to lead, you begin to get sluggish in that too. And when you become undisciplined, then what happens is the dominoes all start to fall. And once one domain really falls, the other three will follow. It's just inevitable. It's a constant battle and it's a constant war to be disciplined in all four of the domains of body, being, balance, and business at the same time. Because on any given day, one of those domains is going to grab your attention. It's going to be more important than the other domains. And it's going to be a time suck. It really is. But then you have to balance it out, so to speak, and make sure you're paying attention to the discipline that's required in the other domains that may not be your primary focus of the day. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to set my alarm clock. I'm going to awaken, and I'm going to, again, get back in the discipline, get up, get dressed, get in the truck, drive to the gym, and know the set of exercises I'm going to do. And then every 2 to 4 weeks, I'm going to change things up so I don't become bored. Because again, motivation isn't discipline. You can be motivated all you want, but if you don't have the discipline to take the actions that are necessary in any of those domains, it really doesn't matter how motivated you are. Because at the end of the day, motivation is just clapping and yelling, rah, 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 rah. But the discipline is the actual logistics of you doing the actions and the acts that you need to do. And if you don't, force that discipline to happen, you become a slug. You do. And then the guilt and shame starts to set in. And again, once the discipline goes by the wayside, then you got a problem. It's the same thing with the military. You can't have a solid military unit, a solid military team, if you don't have the discipline. Discipline is the common denominator in the military. Once you lose discipline, you lose command and control. And when I was an Army officer, you had to have discipline. You had to have it. You had to enforce it. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a tyrant with those whom you lead or those whom you serve with, but you have to maintain good order and discipline, or the cohesion of the unit falls apart. And the minute that happens, now you're in big trouble. So for you law students out there in law school, yeah, sure, you have the discipline of studying, because if you don't make the grades, you're not going to graduate. If you don't graduate, can't take the bar exam, then you can't get licensed as an attorney, and then you're going to start to have problems. You spend all those thousands of dollars over 3 years of law school, 4 years of undergrad, and your lack of discipline has resulted in you bagging groceries again, instead of pursuing whatever it is you're going to do with your law degree, which is hopefully open, own, operate, and lead your own law firm in truth and live the warrior's way. So the key message in this is discipline is the essential ingredient to everything you do. It is the absolute linchpin in the domains of body, of being, of balance, and business. And if we, you, me, all of us, can maintain that daily discipline and set some non-negotiables for ourselves, then the actions that we take will bear the fruits of our labor. And you can look at people, in the domain of body, and when you see they're really obese and unhealthy, you realize that essentially their lack of discipline is poisoning their bodies to where it's ultimately going to break down. And the same thing with relationships that end up in divorce or breaking up or suing. I mean, it's just, the list is endless. So you law students, you young lawyers, just starting out, and especially for those of you who should be seeking to open, own, operate, and lead a law firm, you need to start developing those habits of discipline. And it will be a war to continue. Even though I have been, an attorney for decades and I was an Army officer, there were times when in my life, in my career, and the things that I did, that but for the discipline of doing them, it would have been all over, game over. And it's hard sometimes. It really, really is. No matter how great a leader you are, there are going to be times when you're just going to want to say, screw it. And you're going to negotiate your way out of that path of discipline. So again, ask the better question. Where are you doing really well in the discipline and the domains of body, being, balance, and business? And where are you falling short in your discipline and the domains of body, being, balance, and business? I can tell you for me, in all my domains, I'm lacking some discipline. I need to get off the bench, get in the game more myself, and move this forward and do course corrections. So that's what you need to do. Think about that. Ask those better questions and get that discipline back in where? In the domains of body, of being, a balance, and business. This has been Bryce D. Nyer coming at you live from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg, where every day men and women don the uniform and go fight for our freedoms that we take for granted. And what? They have discipline. So we'll see you kids, you men, you women, and everybody else on the next episode of Escape the Legal Matrix with yours truly, Bryce D. Nyer. We are out of here.